So, Ian, today I want to talk about what are you and I doing? Like, how do we react to this? How do we structure ourselves financially? Because there's a lot of risk out there, and I think this conversation would be very helpful to people. So, just to start off, what are your thoughts on the risk, and what are your thoughts on what you're doing to address it?
Yeah, I mean, just to circle back to the two of the things you mentioned now, the price of gas, petrol, is anybody British watching, and um, inflation figures. A lot of people in our valley have to drive to work. Most people in our valley choose a heavy 4x4, so you're safe on the mountain passes. And if you hit a wild animal, and we frequently do, you need to be in a big V8, typically 12 miles to the gallon, 15 miles to the gallon max. And a lot of the working people in our valley, have to spend up to a quarter of their whole income on gas. So gas has gone from $3.49 to $4.49 in a week. That probably equates to 25–30% inflation for that person's expenditure. And so these are the real life, down to earth things that are hitting us.
Yeah, and this conflict across the world is starting to affect not only the people of Russia and Ukraine. Again, we pray for them, and it's not the people that are causing this conflict. So, I always say I'm one of the people, we the people, and I don't just mean people in the United States. I mean everybody. The general everyday person across the world is now being affected, not just Russia and Ukraine, not just Eastern Europe. It's affecting everybody, and now I think we're starting to see when these conflicts emerge how this gets transmitted through the supply chain, and how this affects Sally Homemaker, and Bob the trucker, and Tom the plumber.
So yeah, the thing is, don't feel helpless. Just do what you can do. If you have $10 spare, go down your bank, buy 20 $half. These could well be worth more for their metal content than you'll pay for them at the moment. And that $10 is your rainy day fund, you can still spend it if you have to.
Hey everyone, it is 𝙁𝙀𝙾𝙆𝙎 of Gold, Silver Pros. We're back. We're recording this on March 10th, 2022. It'll be out a couple of days later. We're joined by returning guest, 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝙖, owner of ARC Silver. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Rob. Yeah. And you?
Doing well. Since last time we talked, Ian, I think a lot has happened in the world. So much news that we can talk about.
Yeah.
This morning, we'll get down to basic economics. This morning, we had a 7.9% print on inflation, the official CPI number from the government. I was disappointed because our producer price inflation, the prices producers pay, is in almost a double digits, like 9.8. The CPI, I don't think, is the right number. I think all of us agree CPI is not the right number. But even that being said, it's still a hell of a lot higher than people want it to be. And I know that people, looking at gas prices, I mean, just everything we could talk about, Ian. Gas prices, the highest in history across the board, average across the U.S. last week. The whole nickel thing on the LME getting shut down because prices spiked on nickel. Platinum making a rebound because of the Russian conflict and the embargo and sanctions in and out of Russia. And Russia happens to be the second biggest producer of PGMs, platinum and palladium. All of the embargoes now on Russian oil, which is causing American oil to spike. I mean, because of one conflict, it seems the world has aligned into these factions, and it's causing massive disruptions in trade and massive inflation. And I don't necessarily want to go down the road of talking about all that, because it's all in the news and people can look at it. More so, Ian, today I wanted to talk about what are you and I doing? Like, how do we react to this? How do we structure ourselves financially? Because there's a lot of risk out there, and I think this conversation would be very helpful to people. So, just to start off, what are your thoughts on the risk, and what are your thoughts on what you're doing to address it?
Yeah, I mean, just to circle back to the two of the things you mentioned now, the price of gas, petrol, is anybody British watching, and inflation figures. A lot of people in our valley have to drive to work. Most people in our valley choose a heavy 4x4, so you're safe on the mountain passes. And if you hit a wild animal, and we frequently do, you need to be in a big V8, typically 12 miles to the gallon, 15 miles to the gallon max. And a lot of the working people in our valley, have to spend up to a quarter of their whole income on gas. So gas has gone from $3.49 to $4.49 in a week. That probably equates to 25-30% inflation for that person's expenditure. And so these are the real life, down to earth things that are hitting us.
Yeah, and this conflict across the world is starting to affect not only the people of Russia and Ukraine. Again, we pray for them, and it's not the people that are causing this conflict. So, I always say I'm one of the people, we the people, and I don't just mean people in the United States. I mean everybody. The general everyday person across the world is now being affected, not just Russia and Ukraine, not just Eastern Europe. It's affecting everybody, and now I think we're starting to see when these conflicts emerge, how this gets transmitted through the supply chain, and how this affects Sally Homemaker, and Bob the trucker, and Tom the plumber.
So yeah, the thing is, don't feel helpless. Just do what you can do. If you have $10 spare, go down your bank, buy 20 $half. These could well be worth more for their metal content than you'll pay for them at the moment. In fact, $10 is your rainy day fund, but you can still spend it if you have to. And what tends to happen when you buy something physical like that, somehow you find a way of not spending it. You manage and you get through. And then, heck, if you can't buy an ounce of silver, buy 6/10 of an ounce. Buy a Canadian dollar, 6/10 of an ounce. Can't afford that, buy a Kennedy dollar for about $4 something. There is something you can do, and we at 𝙎𝙬𝙇𝘍 are doing our best to facilitate, even if your budget is $20, $30, whatever it is. We will bend over backwards to make a way for you to purchase it. We will store it for you until you've built up enough to make it worthwhile with postage costs. Don't feel helpless. Don't think, oh yeah, it's okay for Ian and Rob. We're sorted, and to a certain extent we are. We've been working hard in this field for a long time. Rob for a decade or more. But there is something you can do at every level.
I agree with you. Some of our popular choices, got this from Ian, thank you Ian, is an American Silver Eagle. Usually people can fit these in their budget, because with premiums, whoops, I just dropped some. Here's the maple leaf, my favorite coin. In fact, let me take this out. The maple leaf is just absolutely gorgeous. Most people can afford $30 to get one of these, right?
Yep.
And it may be your best investment. But like you said, maybe you're buying nickels, or not buying nickels, but you're saving your old nickels because they have nickel content, and that nickel's worth more than 5 cents, and maybe worth 7 or 8 cents right now. Or maybe you've got, I think it's pre-1982 pennies that have actual copper in them. Well, look at the prices of copper now. It's worth more than a penny. Maybe 2.1 cents.
About 4 pennies, I think.
4 pennies. So an old penny is worth 4 cents. Wow.
Yeah, and we're just about to bring on war nickels. So I think about 18 of those has an ounce of silver. And we're going to do those at about $2 premium. So you can get an ounce of silver and you get 18 coins for that, the spot plus $2.
That's amazing. It really is how you can sell it that way, because if you were to buy that at a traditional big online dealer it's going to cost a whole lot more than that, because they're going to want to charge you per coin.
Yeah.
They're going to want not just the silver content of what you're buying. They always charge per coin. It's the commission per coin. Yeah. And, I understand why they do it, good for them. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is saying, I'm just trying to get people silver.
Yep.
Let me get silver in the hands of the people the most economic way possible. And Ian, didn't you tell me before we started recording that you run a construction business full time? That's your trade. You started silver because you felt like you were called to do it. Now all of a sudden the silver business has taken over. Why has the silver business just taken over your world? How do you think the world's responding to this risk by just wanting more silver?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients are first-time buyers. Some are friends, and some are through me being on your program, Rob. So many thanks for that. Mm-hmm. And some are even have been stacking for 50 years, but they like to be able to talk to me. They like to get a deeper insight of the very real things that are moving all the time. Premiums are moving, spots moving, products go up and down. It's very, very complicated. I'm just beginning to get a grip of the whole market. I have a whole range of wholesalers now, and it takes time to ring round and get the absolute best deal. And I'm still doing the 𝙎𝙊𝙇𝘿 at 222 premium. But that takes effort, and I have to wait up to 4 weeks to get those in stock. I have a few of those 𝙈𝙀𝙾𝙆𝙎s left.
𝙈𝙀𝙾𝙆𝙆.
They're
I love the kilo ones. I mean, you're holding a brick. It's like I could build a house out of these. And
yeah.
just,
Well,
Ian, there's nothing like holding gold or silver in your hand.
yeah.
It is unreal. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like using your credit card. Like you were alluding to earlier in the program, it's easier to spend money when it's electronic.
Yeah.
You don't spend this because you inherently know this has value. This is natural. It came out of the ground. It was a credible cost to produce it.
Yeah.
This is real value. So, we're not your financial advisors. Quick disclaimer. Do your own research. Contact your own financial advisor before you do anything. Don't do what we do. But what we do is we buy this because you can't. This has tangible value. This is real. I can touch it. The electronic stuff you can't touch.
Yeah.
And so first of all, it's not real in that sense. To when you really need value, you need something real. But second of all, you don't actually own it. And if you own stocks, do you actually own that stock?
Well, no, your broker holds the title to the certificates. Mm-hmm. I mean, years ago, I used to dabble a bit, and you'd get the paper certificate, and then if you sold it, you'd have to get it back to your broker within 2 days to complete the trade. But now your broker holds it. If he goes bust, where do your stocks go? It's scary. So I don't trade anything now. I think I just have a few Royal Mail shares left in the UK. That's it. I have nothing in the traditional financial system.
I don't either, and it's funny that we kind of came that direction. I know you have a lot of business contacts. What's happening with those business contacts? Are they starting to come to silver, Ian? Like a lot of the company executives, company owners?
Yeah, I mean, I have bank workers, bank managers, bank presidents as clients now.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
Oh, you have to tell the story about the bank president.
Yeah, they are literally emptying, getting out of dollars, getting out of notional ideas of wealth into the physical. So they're buying silver, they're buying gold, and they're buying land. And particular land, there's a lot of activity in where I live, in 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿. Just because of the rural, the good security, very peaceful place, and very finite resource. The traditional mountain town is really sought after. And there's a lot of people want to get out of the major cities and even urban areas.
Yeah, it's funny. When you told me that, I was like, wow, here's a guy that's brought up in the fiat system, lives the fiat system. The way that they make their money is off of commission, off of mostly electronic products. There's nothing actually tangible that passes through their hands every day. I mean, if they're at the teller window and they're counting out cash for somebody taking a withdrawal, but how often does that happen? And this guy is going full on into physical things. If that doesn't tell you, if you're watching this, and that doesn't tell you that somebody within the banking system understands what's going on and understands true value, then I don't know what bigger endorsement there could possibly be for gold and silver when fiat people are coming to gold and silver saying, I see the problems over here, screw that. I'm following the gold bugs.
Yeah, I can quote, I will absolutely never do my best to never reveal who my clients are, but I had one, and I spoke to him a year and a half ago, not long after we started 𝙈𝙀𝙊𝙇𝘿, and he said to me, I know you're right, I know all this dollar stuff is fake, but when I start buying, I'm admitting it. He knew.
Yeah. It's a mind shift. It's like excuse my term, it's a brain fuck, right? Because you're saying everything that you knew about this world, you have to admit that was either a lie or propaganda, right? And that's really hard for people to do because you're talking about completely changing your mindset.
Yeah. And we get conditioned. We're very binary thinking. We think cause, effect, or we see an effect, we'll think, what's the cause? If somebody says, oh, silver went up because, this went up because, but we're not it's causes and effects. It's very complicated. Everything is very complicated, very plural. So every effect is multiple, and it comes from multiple causes. But we're conditioned. You look at even just the traditional entertainment. You look at a typical American, like some of the crime dramas. They flash from scene to scene and scene. We're taught and conditioned not to concentrate, not to think of the bigger picture, not even to understand history. And it just sometimes you need to sit back, take a stiff drink or a cup of tea, my favourite, and just pause and in that, if you get yourself into a peaceful state, and I'm not talking about meditation where you empty your mind, I'm talking about meditation where you empty your mind of all the clutter and all the noise and start thinking about the bigger picture. And just think about timescales and what your objectives are. Get beyond thinking, what am I going to eat tomorrow, or what am I going to do at the weekend? Start thinking a little bit bigger. If I don't have that cup of coffee every day, that's $4 a day. Multiply it by 200 days. That's $800 I can spend on silver.
I agree with you, and I used to think that just being busy was the way to be successful in life. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that sometimes you take a step back and just think. It's like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a great book. Sometimes you need to step back and think about your world. It's not just about doing administrative type of things or busy work. It's about understanding oneself in the environment, making connections between what you need and how you need to get there, and then taking the time to do that. So sometimes taking a step back, like I said, having a drink. For me, I go for walks every morning, and that's my time to process. And I do it in the morning, so I process before, and then if I need to, I do another one in the afternoon, so I can process after. And that's my time to sort of put on headphones, put on some classical music, and I just think about, where am I going? What do I need to do? And you would think that, you're wasting time during the day. You need to be busy, but that's the worker mentality. We need to get out of that worker mentality, Ian, and get into I'm the owner of my world mentality, and I'm the only one that can change the direction of my world.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, it really, I've noticed, I've gotten much more successful in life. And not just from a monetary perspective. I mean, business relationships, personal relationships, it's really improved as I've gotten out of that linear thinking that you were talking about.
Yeah, and reflective learning is great. I did a little study, and when I was growing up, so 5, 6, 7 years old, my parents used to say you could spend £10 for your Christmas, £10 for your birthday. So this was late 60s, early 70s. Now, you look back, if my dad had bought me 1 ounce of gold in 1970 for my Christmas and birthday, I would now have $2,000 in my hand. Now, I've got two things I can remember. If Dad's watching, thank you, Dad. He bought me a Meccano set and a little steam engine. I still got those, but they're not worth $2,000.
No.
So when reflective learning, the art of reflective learning is not to look back with regret, because that's done. There's no point, But you can think, what if this is going to happen again, but it's going to be compressed? So you buy one of these now for $2,000, and it's worth 100 times in maybe 5 years or 10 years. And even if it takes 20 years or 30 years or 40, it's going to be amazing. You buy one now, you put it away, it's going to be worth a whole lot more purchase power. So £20 went to £1,500 in gold terms in the UK currency. And I think we ain't seen nothing yet, as that song goes.
I agree with you. Now, we've talked a lot about the metals and the financial side. Let's talk a minute about other ways. So I want to get a little beyond what we typically talk about. You live in an area, I think, which is very independent-minded, and I think also that it's the environment we surround ourselves with, the people we surround ourselves with, and if you're constantly in the city, you get that city sort of vibe and focus, which is not about thinking beyond the next 10 minutes. Yeah. The city is about how do I get to work and how do I get home. How do I get to work and how do I get home, right? And what am I going to do on the weekend? Am I going to go for drinks with friends? But if you get out into a little bit more rural, independent setting, all of a sudden your timeline starts to widen. And I think that your thought process to what's important starts to change. I know that you've done that for yourself. Can you speak a little bit about, coming over to the U.S. and where you live and how that sort of changed your focus?
Wow, that's a big topic. Okay, let me try.
I know I like the philosophical questions.
Yeah, that's a whole series. But
This is a David Thoreau type question.
Yeah, for me personally, to connect with creation,
Yeah.
is connecting with God. I have a Christian faith and belief. There's a passage in the Bible that says, "All creation cries aloud for the sons and daughters of God to arise." And I would translate that to believer or non-believer. There's so much our landscape, our environment has to offer. Like you said, Rob, you go out for a walk, and suddenly you're thinking clearly, something things fall together, and the dross falls away, and you can do it. Heck, if you can just have a pot plant on your windowsill if you live in an apartment, that's creation. There's something about green, living things. Heck, get a pack of cress seeds, grow some sprouting seeds and sprouting beans or something. And the pleasure you'll get from growing that, watching them grow, tending them, eating them, you become a gardener.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm.
And it's very cathartic.
Yeah, I'm going to.
It's very cathartic. I had a garden at the house that was like 1,000 square foot, and we grew everything, and it was awesome. You go at the end of the day, you do some gardening, and you'd come in, you felt connected with nature. And I think getting off of the computer and being connected with nature is a way to kind of deal with the problems. And the reason I'm talking about this on a Precious Metals channel for anybody wondering is it's not just about finance. And with the world the way it is right now, if you're glued to the TV 24/7, you're going to get very despondent because we're all empathetic creatures. But if you spend too much time in that state, you're not living your life, but two, you're not preparing for the future. And so sometimes disconnecting from that world, even disconnecting from these videos and just spending some time in nature, this is an aspect of nature. There are the other aspects of nature too that are important that can help rejuvenate your body, and put you at one with the world. So Ian, I know you guys have been having a ton of success. What's next for 𝙂Silver? You've been doing a whole bunch of stuff in the background.
Yeah, it's building out our wholesaler base. We've got a good place to supply us. It's building out contacts with coin shops, servicing their client base as well. Best of my ability, I just want to give a personal service, help people make the best decision, and whether even precious metals are right. Because for some people, it's probably not the right thing to do. So yeah, keeping up with the order flow, getting the orders out, working out how to do an even more effective distribution system. So building that out. We do a lot of drop shipping, but that was problematic on Monday because a lot of wholesalers weren't even answering the phone. One said, "We're taking no orders." The thing flew out, went so crazy on Monday. Another one, their spot rose 50 cents over London spot. And the premiums went up.
Wait, the spot went above London spot.
Yeah.
So in other words, when you see an event like this happen, people ignore these big derivative markets and say, "Screw that, that's not realistic."
This is our spot. Yeah. And they all do. If you look at I won't name the big companies, but they all. If you check, always go to the London spot. That seems to be the most honest. Check, because I won't mention the names, but we all know the big 3-4 dealers. Their spot is always above, and then people only look at the premiums, so they're comparing premiums, but they're not looking at what that's based on. So you need to be checking what your price per item is, crucially to make sure you're not getting done over, basically.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It seems as though, Ian, there may be some trouble getting bullion. ABC Bullion, the biggest bullion dealer in Australia, earlier this week had everything on pre-order. All silver was on pre-order, indicating they had no available stock. because if they had it, they would sell it, especially with prices in a rising environment, and they purchased it cheaper, they would make more money. I would assume they would want to sell into that environment. So everything was pre-order except for the pooled account. Want your comment on this. My comment on the pooled account was, if you don't have physical to sell, but somebody buys into the pool, did you already anticipate that and put extra money, extra silver in your pool? Or are you basically selling forward, meaning you take the order and you expect to get silver later? When we looked at Perth Mint, Daniel Vergarian and I, they were selling forward $1 billion Australian, 920 million Australian, which basically was fractional reserving. It was big enough to have fractional reserve their entire balance sheet. ABC Bullion, I don't know if they're doing that. I'm not accusing them. But when you don't have any physical available for sale, but you're selling a pooled account, which is a paper ownership account, Ian, is that safe? How could they possibly do that? What's your opinion on that?
I think the whole point of buying metals is to have personal possession, whether in your own direct possession or in a vault that you trust. And I'd recommend these smaller, independent, not the big companies, not the big chains, because that's, I'm afraid, is where the governments will come after. We look at the Canadian Royal Mint. That means Eric Sprott has an awful lot of silver in the custody of the Canadian Royal Mint.
Do you think from a confiscation perspective, is that what you're saying?
Trudeau will shut off people's bank accounts with no recourse to law, no compensation. The banks are exempt from prosecution to do it. Of course, if it came to a situation where national security or whatever reason, they could close the doors on the Canadian. They could nationalise it. And it seems like the Canadian Parliament are so lame that there's no real opposition. It's tragic, isn't it, Rob? People are supposed to represent us. They're supposed to be our servants. They're supposed to be afraid of us, actually, if you look at the Constitution. Government is supposed to.
Are they, Ian? Do you think, take Canada and the US, for example, easy ones because they're close to home, do you think they're still answering to us, or do you think they're answering to something else? And I say that kind of hinting or foreshadowing what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, is you see the world align, the entire West, the sanctions that have been put out. I've never seen sanctions being put out like this, where they're being put out and enforced at every level. This has never happened before. The corporates are getting involved. Rio Tinto is pulling out of Russia. We saw that this morning. Lots of other companies are pulling out. It wasn't Apple that pulled out. Tech companies, resource companies. I've never seen this before. So if that's happening, isn't the allegiance to sides of this conflict above that of each nation state, from a corporate perspective and from a political perspective in your eyes?
Okay, I was having a very interesting conversation in early hours this morning with a friend who has high-level connections. 2 years ago, a product was developed to enable people to make a call on the phone to anyone in the world in any language, so they would hear their language live. An inquiry was made as soon as this product was made possible, a technology, and it's a working product. The inquiry was, will it work for Russian, Belarusian, and Ukraine? 2 years ago, somebody was asking that question. Coincidence? I don't know, but when you get too many coincidences, it seems to point to a bigger picture. People higher up pulling the strings, never fully in control, but fully in control of the end result. They have enough control to steer things in the direction to their benefit eventually. So going back to, are our governments for us? Unfortunately, I don't think most of them are. I don't think they're too detached from reality. I think some of them have never had a real job. Some of them have never gone hungry. Some of them have never had a car that's broken and they can't afford to fix it, so they can't get to work. They've never been divorced because they've run out of money. On and on and on. They're so far from reality. How can they make wise decisions for the benefit of the people they're supposed to be serving? And they don't even have enough education to know what they don't know. And that's one of the biggest things we need to know. We need to know what we don't know, because then we're going to leave a gap in our plans for the unexpected and trying to seek out, well, what don't we know to help our business succeed or to help with this situation. Yeah.
I think, Ian, in the future, you and I should expand upon that. I think we touched on a topic that probably is very broad, and we could talk a long time about it. And I think we should. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the program there, though. We've been going for almost about 30 minutes. I think we've covered a lot. The purpose of this video was to say we know what's going on in the world. We could go rehash all that and give our thoughts, and we will in other programs. But it really was to discuss what are ways we can deal with it. Because at the end of the day, you know, you were mentioning at one of these conferences we went to, somebody stood up during one of the talks and said, okay, that's fine, but what the hell do I do about it? So, you know, at the end of the day, everybody's got to make their own decision. But I think we had a good conversation here about what you and I are doing about it. And I think there are a lot of options there, and we should continue to talk about that as we go forward as well.
Sounds good, Rob.
Okay, everybody, go to 𝙎𝙄𝙇𝙀𝙍 if you want to get silver, probably the cheapest anywhere you're going to get it on the planet. Ian has lots of different options for you, and I've never seen anybody beat the prices on the deals that he has available. You can go to 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝙀𝙍 and click on the precious metals link and fill out a form there that will also email Ian, and we'll let him know that you came through our website, which helps out our channel, helps us pay down some of the costs that we have. Anything else that you want to say, Ian, as we exit out of this one?
Yeah, just take care, everybody. Look after your mental health. Take some time, breathe. And if you're in a bad situation, there's a good chance it can get better. If you're in a good situation, look around and see who you can help, who's come out behind you. Let's look out for each other. And that's how we can defeat the big government, the big control. We start just looking after each other, look after your neighbours. Reconnect those old friends that you regret losing contact with. Just do some real stuff.
Yeah, and those are very wise words. One thing we did on our channel is enact a zero tolerance policy to people that are divisive, because the most important thing going forward is not even gold and silver, it's that we do stick together, because if we don't, you know, the people have to help each other. Yeah. If we don't, we're all on our own, it's going to get to be a really, you know, brutish world very quickly. And I don't think any of us...
Even if you're incredibly successful, if you're all on your own, how miserable is that?
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to live that life?
If you land on Mars and you own all of Mars, but you're on your own, what, you know, good luck.
Plant your flag in Mars. I am now the owner. You'll have all the gas that you need of every type. Thanks, Ian, so much. We appreciate having you on the show. Ian will be back with us every 2 weeks, except for when I travel, which sometimes happens. But he'll be a regular on the program. And thanks, Ian, again for stopping by. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Rob. God bless.
Hey, everybody, this is Robert. Thank you so much for watching that video content. I have a couple of quick announcements I'd like to share with you as we head out of this video. Also wanted to remind you, you can find us on goldsilverpros.com. We have a free newsletter. If you click here and enter your email address, we'll send that out every Monday to you, as well as we have special precious metals deals with leading bullion dealers here in the United States. If you click that button, you can go here and click on either Miles Franklin or Ark Silver and get the best deals in the business. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us on the channel. Until next time, this has been Gold Silver Pros.